Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. My guest is Julie Barth. She is a writer, mother of 6, trauma survivor, and founder of the Colin James Barth Outreach, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting women-led households in times of crisis. Julie also has a memoir, Notes from a Blackberry. It is a deeply moving account of love, loss, and resilience. It chronologically discusses her journey as a special needs parent while navigating the heartbreaking realities of her first husband's battle with cancer. After navigating the complexities of her daughter's rare genetic condition, she found herself a widow in her late 30s with 4 of her children being small. Perhaps her greatest struggle is enduring years of emotional abuse at the hands of her second relationship and unpacking all that came with going from surviving to thriving. Now, I know I didn't read that bio super smoothly, so give me some grace. Julie, is there anything about your bio that you would like to add to it?
I don't think so. I think you covered it. And much grace. I know it's long.
And I read your short bio. I think I have to tell people maybe, so it's not so much me talking, maybe a little, but anyway, whatever. You have a lot to say. You've had a lot going on. Yeah, and so I think I just use my intuition to guide the questions, and if I don't ask you something you want to share, just let me know that. So tell me the story about having 6 children. Did you always plan to have such a large family? Are they all biologicals or foster adopted stepchildren? Tell us that story first.
No, they're all biological. 4 are from my first husband and 2 are from my second husband. I grew up with just one sister, and our house is always lonely and very quiet. So I was determined to have this big, chaotic family, and I definitely got what I wanted. Yeah. It was one of those things where go ahead.
It sounds like you don't do anything easy, though, with 4 children, then losing your husband. Wow. Was the marriage healthy before he had cancer and all that? Was it a loving, supportive relationship?
Yes, I met my first husband, Colin, when we were in 3rd grade. I moved from one small town to another, and he was literally, I can't remember a time when he wasn't in my life. He was my first kiss, and we split ways, although we went to high school together and met back up in college. And it was like I found that piece of me that had been missing. I always say it was very sad, and every day I miss him, but to have had him for those years, because he was there through our journey with our daughter Tatum, who had special needs. And I don't think that I could have made it through those years. I don't think Tatum could have been who she was. We were probably the best team of all time when it came to parenting and getting Tatum where she needed to be and just supportive of one another. He was by far my best friend. So it was a very amazing relationship. And I think that's why going into the second one, I just assumed that's just the way marriages go. I hadn't known anything differently. My parents didn't get along fantastically, but I just assumed my personality style is like, what could be so bad and that's why I used to look at people who chose to divorce or didn't get along. I thought, what could ever be that bad? Because I could never imagine not being able to work through things because we had so easily and we were very blessed with that.
Yeah. So does this mean that you're no longer married to your second spouse?
No, I'm not. It was a decade of horrible emotional abuse, some physical. He was very horrible to my children. I was divorced about 3 years ago after a very long battle to try and fight against the allegations he was making. I now have sole custody of my children, but it was definitely a very long fought battle, a lot of hardship. And that's where the Colin James Barth Outreach came from. I've been in many situations in my life where I found myself in a position where, for whatever reason, I have a special needs daughter. I'm not prepared for that. I don't have the resources, or my husband was diagnosed with 4 small children with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, given 2 weeks to live. I was a caregiver to him for 16 months before he died. And then a decade later, I found myself in this position where this man who treated me horribly, stole everything, lied, wasn't even here, and then came back to sue me and say that I was an unfit parent and try to really extort me for everything that I had. So that's where our charity is founded from, to help all of those situations in whatever way we can.
That's, I have a lot of survivors that I work with or guests on my podcast that have turned their heartbreak into how can they help others. So it's beautiful that you did that. How
Yeah, I
long
think
have you
it's
had
really,
the
I,
foundation?
I opened it in September of last year. So it's really in its infancy. When we first started, we had all these goals and objectives, and we're just trying to find how we can best serve women by finding them the resources that are either already out there and setting them up and finding eligibility and being like a concierge service versus be a one-stop shop for any one situation. Because the problem is you find yourself in these situations. And when I first opened the charity, everyone's, oh, so and so does that. And I thought, that's great that they do that. But I've been in these positions and I didn't know that. I think sometimes just getting someone to where they need to be is half the battle. Because if they're out there, I don't need to recreate it, but hooking people up to find those resources, because it takes so long to find what you need. By the time you find it, you're overwhelmed and you're probably broke. We're trying to provide that safety net before you fall into poverty and you're eligible for the big things that everybody knows about. Because it's a small little activists out there and little charities that you probably fit into, but you don't know, because by the time you've got everything else going on. So that's the thought process behind the charity.
Yeah, what also stands out to me is amazing how you have 6 children, yet somehow found the time, energy, money to start this. Does this mean some of your children are grown at this point? Help me understand or how you're doing this.
First of all, I don't have the money. I'm very broke, but I have a one-man band. I have 2 that are still at home. No, I should. Okay, so I have 2 that are home full time, one that's in college, one, my special needs daughter, who's 24, lives in the cottage behind my house with my mother. To anyone else, that would seem like I've got a lot going on, but going from a household of 8 to a household of 3 full time is, I'm like, the laundry's done. What? I find myself being bored. And I think when you're so used to just doing and going, let's just say that quiet has never been good for my brain. So when I stay active, and just the sheer pleasure of getting someone out of a situation that I felt so hopeless in drives me to want to continue with it. Again, it's a work in progress. We're still finding our way, but I'm very encouraged. We've been able to help some really significant situations where people have come out of it so much stronger on the other side.
Beautiful. Yeah. And your daughter with special needs, is she out of the woods in terms of anything horrible happening with her medically? Is she in a stable, good place right now?
Not really. So she was born with something called primordial dwarfism, which it's a type of dwarfism where they're proportionally small. So she's 24 right now. She's a little over 4 foot and weighs about 24 pounds. That in and of itself is a challenge. But then she had, at birth, there were all sorts of medical mistakes made, and she had to have laryngeal reconstructive airway surgery. So she lost her voice. Then when she finally was getting better, at the age of 13, she came down with a rare form of connective tissue cancer. So the only cure for that was, cure, I don't know if you can call that, but they had to remove all of the connective tissue that was sick. And so she had her left side torso removed, or her right side torso removed, and then her legs grafted to fill in that space. So she's still, after everything she's been through, it's a miracle that she's even still here. She's a self-taught artist, so she can't really be a part of the world because she really has no voice. But socially and emotionally, she just wants to be like everyone else. So we created a website to sell her art, and the proceeds from her art sales go to fund the charity. So mobility wise, no, she's not doing great, and she has some other challenges, but she gets up every day and she tries to make the best of it. She's just really a bright light.
And she sounds incredibly strong despite all that.
She is.
Yeah. And did you share with me the website for her art? I would love to also put that in the show notes.
I think I did, but it's Hope, HOPE, number 4, TAYT.com. So
Let
Hope
me
for
repeat it.
Tate.
Hope, HOPE, the number 4, T is in Tom, A is in Adam, Y is in yo-yo, T is in Tom.com.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. That's good I wanted to add that in. Wow. So yeah, your little heart or your big heart has had so much grief and trauma and worry for your family.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
It's been a long road. Yeah. And how are your other children doing? Because it sounds like everybody's been through a lot. And if I ask you
They're
something you don't feel, is that okay to ask
no,
that?
no.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. They're actually, my kids are all very resilient and strong. And I'm most especially proud of how kind they are. I have a daughter right now who goes to Clemson, and she just got accepted to automotive engineering program. And her whole dream is to help make cars for people who are disabled, because she sees that her sister can't just drive somewhere or go somewhere because she can't drive. They're just all very well adjusted. Probably, I would say, in spite of me, but probably because they have been through so much. They've learned an empathy that is hard to come by, I think. And yeah, I'm just very proud. They are probably the only reason that I'm still here every day. They're very good to one another. They take care of one another. Everyone says you have 6. When you have a big family like that, you usually find that there's the mom hen that kind of keeps everyone in line, and then there's the one that makes everyone do what they're supposed to do. And so I've been very blessed. There's an age difference of about 12 years from the oldest to the youngest. Right now is the only time, I think, with little kids that I haven't had a second driver, which that's about the biggest challenge I've had in the past 6 months. So I'll take it.
Yeah. And with what's happened, you were lucky in love the first time around. Of course, not lucky with them passing, but to have real love is a blessing. And then you had this rocky relationship. Has it turned you off from finding a partner? Or would you say you're still healing from that? What are your thoughts and feelings about that right now?
No, I appreciate the fact that not everyone is good for you. And it did change my perspective on my boundaries. And I'm a pleaser by nature. And I've tried to take a hard look at myself. And it takes 2 people. I won't say that nothing happens in a bubble. I think that I am completely open to someone coming into my world, but I also won't accept giving more than what I'm giving back. And unless it adds to my life, I'm fine. For the first time, I think, in my entire life, I'm fine just being on my own and being me, and worrying about nobody but my children. And that's such an amazing feeling. For so long, I always worried about what people thought of me or how I came across, and that's so toxic to be with somebody, because people who are narcissistic and toxic, they take your worst insecurity, and usually the thing that makes you kind and empathetic, and they beat you over the head with it, and they just use it. So no, I think that if I were to turn my heart, or to say, oh, and to extrapolate what he did into other people, would be a real shame. I think that's on him. I think that I chose wrong. And I think there's millions of people out there. I just failed to see who he really was. And I don't think I'll be fooled again, although I didn't think I would the first time. But now I refuse to let that break my belief that there are good people out there, and that someday I might find somebody else to share my life with.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, talking about narcissism is huge in the trauma field right now. And if you aren't used to having that behavior in your life, it's very easy to miss the signs that are there, because they can be so charming and very manipulative. Are there things that you, looking back, that you saw and just didn't know were symptoms of narcissism at the time?
Yeah, I think, and this is just my soapbox thing, I think that narcissism and narcissists have been, it's like a catchphrase now. It's obviously been around with the DSM-R, whatever, for since God, the
Yeah,
beginning of psychology. But nowadays, everyone is a narcissist. I think that,
everybody.
yeah, and
I
I
agree.
think that really muddies the water, because true narcissists with narcissistic personality disorder are toxic people. They're not just people who lie. They're
Right.
not just people who are selfish. They literally do everything that they can to harm other people. Did I know right out the gate when I met him, I knew that something was not right. He was 10 years younger than me and he was charming, but not charming enough that I didn't see it. And I think that coming off, because I had just lost my first husband, I think I had a lot of survivor's guilt. And he didn't want to know about me or my grief and I was like, perfect, because I don't want to talk about it at a time when everyone else was trying to get me to talk and worried about how I felt. And I was trying to push that part of me away. I came in and I was like, great, you don't want me to talk about my feelings? And I don't know if it was situational. I don't know if it was just, it caught me at the right time. But he had all the traits. He was horrible to animals. He was pretty much so many things. And of course, it's to degrees. At first, you're like, something's not right. Nothing seems true and you're confused. And then as time goes on, the signs just become more and more. And the more they reveal themselves and you pull back, the more awful they become. So I think that the best advice I can give to someone is, uh, you get out as soon as you can. It's like a vaccine. They're mean to you one time and you think, oh, I didn't mean that. And then they're a little meaner the next time, but you're prepared for it. So you're like, oh, it's not any worse than last time. And the next thing you know, I'm getting furniture thrown at me and being called names. And it just became normalized to be cruel. And then I started reacting to it. And then you get in a situation where you're like, I am crazy. Look, I'm yelling at him. And you have to take responsibility for your behaviors as well. And then you get stuck in a shame situation.
Yeah. I'm wondering how much you still beat yourself up. You said something earlier about your kids, like something about despite of me there. So I'm wondering what you still put on yourself.
I don't. I try to live my life and to help others by saying we all make decisions and it's so easy to look back on them and say, wow, that was really stupid and to beat yourself up about it. But you make the decisions you make at the time you make them. And as long as you made them with the goodness in your heart that I did, but I didn't expect things to go bad. And when they did, that doesn't mean that my intention going into them wasn't the right thing. So I have regrets, sure, that my children had to suffer through those years. But I also know that looking at the entirety of my family right now, I hate to say that we're all better for it. We're all close. And my children won't put up with anyone treating them poorly. They are very empathetic to others. They're able to give advice. They're very open and vulnerable with people. And I think that it created this entire tribe of people who are healthier and try and give back to those around them. So it sucks that we all went through it. And I have to take responsibility for leading us into the fire, but then we all came out Phoenix on the other end. So I try not to beat myself up about it.
Good, good. Yeah, I think it's so true. Our traumas, no, we don't deserve them and they shouldn't happen, but the gift that comes with it is just so much strength. A lot of our character building comes from it. And again, I'm not saying yay trauma. I'm not.
Choose trauma. Yeah, always run from trauma. But if you can't get out, then at least help it make you stronger.
Yeah, find a couple gifts of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What other gifts did you get? Other than the resiliency and having a
Um,
stronger family? What else happened?
I don't know. I guess I just really value my time more. I used to worry about a whole lot of things that didn't matter. And now I'm very selective about what I'm going to put my energy into. I used to be very afraid. I almost counted how many friends I had. And if I didn't have enough or if people weren't reaching out to me, then I really became self conscious. And now I've recognized that if you have one, two people in your life that you can truly rely on and are truly there for you, then that's all you need. So I think it's focused me and I have a peace in my heart that I don't know that I've ever had.
Oh, how did you get that?
I don't know. I just, after the fog of my ex-husband, and I will say that like my first husband, my second husband, we all grew up in the same town. And when we moved away, he was telling everyone, I had cut my friends off and decided I was going to do my own thing. And he was going home and telling all my friends and just really turned my family members that didn't really keep in touch with me and my friends against me. And I think that was one of the reasons that I stayed, because I was constantly trying to convince people that what he was saying was a lie or apologizing or trying to prove something. And when I finally looked at it and thought, if these were my real friends and they really did love me, then they would give me the stage to say what I had to say or confront me or ask me. And when I was able to let go of trying to hold on to so many things that were toxic to me to begin with, there comes a peace over you when you're not trying to fight against something, struggle to get something, and your energy is really focused on things that make you feel good rather than make you feel less than.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. What else has been helpful on your healing journey? Did you go to therapy? Did you get coaching? Do you meditate? Do you exercise? What helps you?
I've always been a runner. Actually, that's why I'm dressed like this.
Mhm.
But I used to run like when Colin was sick, my first husband, he lived for 16 months and they were terrible. But I would just take off in the morning and I would go for an hour and a half, just run. And it was like this place where nothing can touch you. You don't have to think about it. It's literally like dead air. So that's always gotten me through. When I was with my second husband, it was so oppressive that I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I had fibromyalgia, and I'm putting that in quotations because that just is what they assumed I had. But it was so bad, I couldn't run to the mailbox. I was constantly in pain and taking pain medication and panic attacks. And so I'm happy to say that I'm back to running. I do a lot of yoga. I have a husky, so he keeps me very busy. And I just got another one. So now I'm very busy. And I think just for me, there's nothing better than just when I've had enough, I strap my shoes on and I'm just gone until I come back. And it's like I've spent all that negative energy and burned through it and I'm ready to start again.
Yeah, that's, I'm a little in awe. I hope to start running here one time soon. I'm working on increasing my walking right now.
Yeah. I was born a I think some people are just born runners. I remember when I was like 11, I would do it when I was literally 9, 10, 11, and my mom would be like, and it was in the 80s. So she's, you're going where? And I was like, I'm running around the lake. She's, and why? I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like I should do
There
that.
has to be a purpose.
Yeah, so I just really think that as a runner, sometimes it's like you're programmed to do it. I think maybe that if God gave me one gift besides my beautiful children, it was this sense of I don't even know why I'm doing it, but I'm strapping my shoes on, I'm going. And it's always helped me through it.
Yeah, it sounds like with your story, it was really important to
Yeah.
release all that energy, stored up
Yeah.
emotion. Tell us about your book. I love the title, by the way, Notes from a Blackberry.
Thank
That's a
you.
really great title. Tell us what was the inspiration for it, although I could probably make some guesses, and what that was like for you to write it.
So when my first husband became ill, we were just coming. Tatum had, she was in the NICU and she had all these issues, and it was traveling around for 4 years to try and get her throat repaired and nursing and all that went with that. And when Colin got sick, we were literally just coming off of that. And we had two other children, so four in total. And I would take him to chemo every Tuesday. And I thought it was going to be a time for us to connect. And we got there and he was so sick all the time. And I wasn't a writer at the time, I am now, but took my Blackberry with me and I started writing Tatum's story and all that we had been through because it's such a crazy story. Just the things that she's been through, the mistakes that, oh my gosh, I've never seen this. And we didn't know what was wrong with him for 4 years. So we were just traveling around the United States. And then it naturally just flowed into his story. So what I would do is I wrote it and I emailed it back to myself and then I would piece it together. I really wrote it for my children more than I didn't write it to release. I wanted them to know of his courage and who he was because I knew realistically he wasn't going to make it. After I went through my second divorce, I am a writer now by trade. That's what I do. But I write a lot of insignificant things like HVAC or whatever it is. And I finally got the courage to read the book in its entirety. And I got to the end of it and I thought, and it ends with Colin's passing. And I read it and I said, oh my gosh, the crazy stuff didn't even happen yet. So, if you can imagine, called an editor, had it edited. And so I have Notes from a Blackberry, and it's called that because I wrote it on my Blackberry. My second book will be released in a couple months, and that's called From Blackberries to Thorns. And my third book is From Thorns to Blossoms, and that's unpacking the first two books, which are my memoir. So it's a third three. It's a
Oh,
tricolor. So
wow.
yeah.
Oh, I love that you're continuing to use writing as a, you may not use these words, but I feel like they're healing tools to tell your story. It's using your voice.
Yeah.
And I know your daughter's using her voice through her art. Maybe one day she'll write something as well. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
I,
My hope is go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
My hope really, because people say that all the time, was this cathartic. And in some ways it was, but I think that the biggest reason that I released it is because I did go into the second marriage with so much guilt from the first marriage and survivor's feelings and all these emotions that I never unpacked and didn't know existed. And I didn't really understand how truly lonely I was. So I hope that when people read the first book, they know that they're not alone. It's a sad story, obviously, but just putting it out there because I didn't want to tell anyone how I was feeling. You don't want to be a downer. You don't want to tell everyone how horrible it is. And you certainly don't want to tell people that you're wishing that your husband would just pass so his suffering would end. But you're stuck with all that at the end. So my hope is that other people will read it and feel less lonely and be able to talk about those things that are uncomfortable to talk about. Because if you don't, you just bottle it all up.
That's exactly right. Now, all I was going to say is as your books come out, as they get published, keep in touch and let us know because we can add those to your show notes.
Okay.
In 5 years down the road, when someone's listening to your podcast, they can see all three books. Get the
Okay.
link.
Sounds good.
Okay. It'll be easier
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. There's also an audio. The first one's an audio now, which was a huge addition, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have a listener, pretend, because I don't know who's going to listen to it, who is feeling really stuck. Maybe they've had a lot of loss like you've had, and maybe they're in a relationship that's abusive, however that looks like. You mentioned earlier, basically get out. Don't feel like you need to fix something. You can't fix somebody else, right?
Yeah.
Other suggestions or words of wisdom for them?
Again, I think a lot of the reasons why I stayed is because I felt like I would have to take responsibility in some way for the failure of it. And I had this feeling because I was trying so hard. And it was almost like if I let go of this and he goes on, marries, has a beautiful life, and here I am, and it was me. And there was a lot of I almost needed to prove that it wasn't me, or I was too afraid to let go because I thought I would find out that it was me. And in the end, I remember people would say to me, sometimes two people just aren't meant to be together. And I could never accept that when I was with him. I wanted people to either see that I was trying and he wasn't, or I just always felt this need to place blame or to figure out who's at fault here. Why can't we get along? And in the end, I recognized that it didn't even matter if he had gone. I don't speak to him anymore. No one I know does. But if he had gone on and he had a great life, it wouldn't matter. My very worst day today is better than my very best day. So if something is not working, it does not matter why. It doesn't matter who's at fault. It doesn't, nothing matters, but you have one life to live. And when you leave that situation, you will see everything and why it had to happen. But staying in it, I think that the predictability of the Satan we know, but the problem is that it's still Satan, the devil we know, and it doesn't get better. And the more you stay with it, the worse it gets. And it's easier to get out while you still have some of your strength left. And there's a lot less healing if you can get out of it while you still have that strength to heal, because it takes so much longer to bounce back if you stick with something until there's really nothing left. And that's what's going to happen.
That was well said.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I think women in general, it's a little stereotypical to say, but we like to fight for our relationships. And some relationships is are just, it's not that we wish that person harm or ill will, but just because somebody's hurting doesn't mean it's our job to fix them because we can't. And that's a big hard thing for women. We like to fix relationships and you said it all very well earlier. You were
Well,
taking
it's funny you say
responsibility.
Yeah, it's funny you say fight for a relationship because I can honestly say I don't think I would ever fight for a relationship, maybe with my children, because I think that as a mother, that is something that maybe you should never give up because that's what you're here for, in my opinion. Although fighting, how you go about fighting is one thing. In a
Right.
relationship with another human, you should never have to fight for it if it's
That's right.
good and it's, and so it was funny. It wasn't funny, but when you said fight for a relationship, I've heard that before. When you really put that down on paper, why should you ever have to fight to be in a relationship with anybody besides yourself? You don't need someone you
It's
have to fight
excellent
for.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that saying, I can do bad by myself. Like
Yeah.
fighting with
I
myself is
definitely
enough.
can. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was well said. Julie, I really appreciate you spending time with my audience today, your audience today. I We don't know whose life we're going to impact with what you shared. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate talking to you.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.